Right now, McLaren are on the brink of history. The Papaya team has just wrapped up back-to-back Constructors Championships, their first since 1991, and both their drivers, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, are locked in a title fight that's splitting the garage down the middle. It's easy to forget how far they've come. 10 years ago, McLaren were crawling around at the back of the grid, mocked for their GP2 engine. They'd fallen from being Formula One's gold standard to a team barely staying afloat. This is the story of how McLaren went from dominance to disaster to rebirth, and why 2025 might be the year they finally complete their redemption arc. The 1980s marked McLaren's golden age. Under Ron Dennis, the team had evolved from solid contenders to a racing empire. In 1984, Niki Lauda beat Alain Prost by half a point, the tightest title finish in F1's history. A year later, Prost returned the favour, cementing McLaren as the team to beat. Then came along Ayrton Senna. His arrival in 1988 ignited one of the most dominant and turbulent eras ever. The MP4/4, powered by Honda, won 15 of 16 races and led all but 27 laps of that season. Senna and Prost's rivalry pushed them beyond limits and sometimes over the edge. Portugal 88 saw Senna squeeze Prost towards the pit wall at 180 miles per hour. In Japan 89 they collided. Prost took the crown after Senna's disqualification. A year later, Senna struck back, crashing into Prost at Turn 1 to claim revenge and another championship. From 1984 to 1991, McLaren captured 6 constructors and 7 drivers' titles, an era of near total supremacy. When Honda pulled out in 1992 to throw him past Williams, and McLaren hit a rare slump, but they rebuilt. By 1995, a new partnership with Mercedes was underway. 3 years later, Mika Hakkinen led McLaren back to glory, taking back-to-back championships in 1998 and 1999. His battles with Michael Schumacher defined the late 90s. By the millennium term, McLaren's tally stood at 8 constructors and 11 drivers' championships, a dynasty written in chrome and carbon fibre. The 2000s opened with McLaren still near the top, but Ferrari's red machine was relentless. Hakkinen and David Coulthard kept it competitive, yet Schumacher's dominance cast a long shadow. In 2005, Kimi Raikkonen had the fastest car on the grid, winning 7 races, but fragile reliability cost him the title. It was McLaren's curse, always in contention but rarely rewarded. Then came 2007, the most dramatic season in the team's history. McLaren paired world champion Fernando Alonso with rookie Lewis Hamilton. On paper, it was genius. In practice, it was chaos. The MP422 was lightning quick, but the infamous Spygate scandal saw McLaren stripped of all their constructors' points and fined $100 million. Alonso and Hamilton finished the season tied on points, both one behind Ferrari's Raikkonen, a championship that handed away through infighting. In 2008 came redemption. Hamilton took the driver's crown with that legendary last lap pass in Brazil, McLaren's first as Hakkinen. They missed the constructors by 21 points, but the message was clear: the team could still win. However, the next era of Formula One would soon expose cracks that money and talent couldn't fix. After Hamilton left Mercedes in 2013, McLaren spiraled. That year they failed to score a single podium, their worst season in over 3 decades. So they gambled. They'd rekindle the legendary McLaren-Honda partnership. What could go wrong? The answer? Everything. The new hybrid engines arrived in 2014. Honda joined a year later. McLaren forced extreme packaging demands for aerodynamic gain, the so-called size 0 chassis, and Honda couldn't deliver. The power unit was weak, overheating and hopelessly unreliable. Grid penalties became weekly rituals. Fernando Alonso's GP2 engine outburst at Suzuka summed it all up. By 2017, the relationship had collapsed. McLaren terminated the partnership and switched to Renault engines for 2018. They ended the season 6th, with Alonso walking away, burned out and bitter. McLaren, once the benchmark of Formula One, had hit rock bottom. Real change began in 2019. Zak Brown took full control as CEO, restructuring the entire organisation. Carlos Sainz Jr. and the rookie Lando Norris injected the youth and positivity that the team desperately needed. Immediately, results improved. McLaren became the clear best of the rest. Sainz's podium in Brazil, their first in 5 years. It felt like oxygen to a drowning team. In 2020, Ferrari faltered and McLaren pounced, finishing 3rd overall. The revival was real. For 2021, they reunited with Mercedes power. That season, Daniel Ricciardo led a 1-2 finish at Monza, McLaren's first win since 2012, and the only team that year to manage a 1-2. Zak Brown literally got a tattoo to celebrate. McLaren's swagger was back. 2022 was a little bumpier. Ricciardo struggled to adapt. Alpine beat them to 4th, but Norris still delivered, scoring a lone podium at Imola, the only non-top 3 team to do so all season. Behind the scenes, McLaren prepared for the future by signing F2 champion Oscar Piastri. The rebuild was nearly complete. The 2023 season began horribly. The MCL60 was overweight, draggy and underdeveloped. After Bahrain, McLaren sat dead last. Andrea Stella, the newly appointed team principal, responded with a radical plan. He tore up the car's design and launched a massive mid-season upgrade program. By Austria and Silverstone, it was a transformed machine. At Silverstone, Norris qualified in the front row and finished second. Piastri came home fourth, and a week later, both were on the podium in Suzuka. McLaren was back, and by Qatar, Piastri had won the sprint race, becoming the first rookie since 2016 to win any F1 session. And he wasn't just any rookie in 2016. They went from backmarkers to the podium regulars in 6 months. Pundits called it one of the greatest in-season turnarounds ever. McLaren ended 2023 fourth in the constructors, but more importantly, they'd rediscovered their identity. Going into 2024, McLaren weren't the clear favourites. It looked like Red Bull still had the upper hand. But as new upgrades arrived through the spring, the MCL38 came alive. By mid-season, the Papaya cars were genuine race winners again. Lando Norris took multiple victories and emerged as Max Verstappen's biggest threat, while Oscar Piastri claimed his first Grand Prix win in Hungary, proof that McLaren now had two drivers capable of fighting for victories. From then on, they were relentless, regular podiums, strategic precision, and near flawless reliability. Heading into the final round in Abu Dhabi, both championships were still in play. Norris needed to hold off the Ferraris to clinch McLaren's first constructors title since 1998, and he delivered, driving a masterclass to secure it. Verstappen narrowly retained the driver's title, but the message was unmistakable. McLaren were back at the top, and a new era of Formula One had begun. 2025 should have been McLaren's masterclass. The MCL39 has been rock solid. The wins came, the poles piled up, but now it's all starting to crack. Lando Norris struck early in Australia, taking the win in front of Oscar's home crowd. Oscar Piastri answered back in China with his own victory from pole. Through the spring and summer, the battle intensified. Norris's raw pace stood out. Piastri, meanwhile, was surgical under pressure. But then came Canada. Running fourth and fifth, Norris lunged at Piastri down the main straight, clipped his rear wing and crashed into the pit wall. He retired on the spot. Piastri finished fourth. Norris took full blame, saying he'd broken the rule number one that you don't hit your teammate. Tension simmered through the summer. At Singapore, they boiled over. On lap 1, Norris made contact while driving into turn 3. Stewards called it a racing incident, but McLaren imposed internal repercussions. Despite the friction, they wrapped up the constructors' title that same weekend, proof of their dominance. But the story didn't end there. In Austin's COTA sprint, Piastri tangled with Nico Hülkenberg, spun and slammed into Norris. Both McLarens out on lap 1. Piastri called it a racing incident, while Zak Brown initially blamed Hülkenberg's amateur hour move before walking it back. Soon after, the team quietly dropped Norris's penalties. The rivalry was reset. Uneasy peace, zero trust. Then came Mexico. Norris was unstoppable. Lights to flag, 30 seconds clear of Charles Leclerc. Piastri fought hard but could only manage fifth. Norris reclaimed the championship lead by 1 point, the first time he'd topped the standings since April, and seemingly had the momentum that Piastri lost. 4 races remain. Every lap matters now. Will Norris, McLaren's homegrown hero, finally claim his crown? Will Piastri, the driver who refuses to play second fiddle, snatch it instead? Or will 2007 repeat itself, and Max Verstappen wins for his 5th consecutive title? The Papaya empire has risen again, but greatness in Formula One is fragile, and sometimes your biggest threat isn't your competition, it's the driver in the other car. From Senna and Prost to Norris and Piastri, McLaren's history is a cycle of brilliance and conflict, domination followed by implosion, and rebirth through resilience. After a decade in the wilderness, they're finally back where they belong at the front. But as the world watches the closing act of 2025, one question remains. Can McLaren's resurrection end with a world championship, or will their own rivalry write another chapter of heartbreak? If you enjoyed this deep dive, hit subscribe, drop a like, and let's see if Papaya can rule the grid once more.